say we're in the era of like, so a lot of people think we're in a TCG bubble and the bubble is gonna pop, but I actually don't think that. I think instead we are in the era of TCGslop, and I'm gonna give you multiple reasons I think this. For starters, one of the biggest ones is everyone's trying to make cheap money. If you go on TikTok and you just scroll, they'll show you a live if you like TCGs, and there are people selling slabbed cards with grading companies that they themselves have invented. They'll be like, oh my God, this is a whatever grading company. You should buy this. This is a rare card. And they're selling it to people who don't know what they're buying. But I understand why these people are buying it. Because a lot of the people who are buying these cards do come from lower income backgrounds. And they do see this as a potential ticket to free them from the kind of lifestyle they're stuck in. I don't even blame them for that. I think they are victims of the system. And there are people who are exploiting them to make money. Anyone who's been in the TCG space for long enough will know that you shouldn't buy cards. You shouldn't buy graded cards specifically outside of companies that don't have a reputation, that haven't been around a while. I think you still shouldn't buy ace graded slabs. Yes, I'm from the UK. I just don't think if a big wave hits that ace is going to survive, especially with PSA opening EU fulfillment center sometime this year or next year. I also want to speak about PSA some more. This company essentially has a monopoly on grading. I believe outside of Tag, they own most of the big grading companies. That is insanity. I don't think that would run in any other market. But since this is a free market and people are free to do whatever they want, and the companies don't really have a control over the secondary market, they can essentially do what they want, and they know this. I want to talk about how they took that guy's lenticular deoxys that was in a PSA 10, damaged it, and I think they gave it back to him as an 8 or something, and they offered him some finances if he kept quiet. He obviously spoke up about this, and people were like, this is insanity. You know, you gave them your card to reholster and they damaged it and then lowered it a grade. That means they can reduce the amount of PSA 10s, thus making PSA 10s of that lenticular deoxys even more scarce, inflating the price. They can control the price of cards. There are also numerous stories on Elite Four forums and Reddit and all sorts of places where people talk about how PSA tried to buy back their PSA 9s, only to find those same PSA 9s bumped up to a 10 and thrown onto the PSA 10's eBay. And this is so sloppy because they actually could have gone around this if they just changed the certification number, but they left it the same. It shows that there is so much dumb money here right now that people don't know what they're buying. And I feel like if you don't know what you're buying, you're putting your money into these strange, untrustworthy products and such, you are the people who are going to get burnt the most when things go bad. Pokemon is already starting to slow down with the most recent sets, with Chaos Rising, Perfect Order, and Pitch Black. And people are so quick to sell all their stuff. They're like, oh my God, I bought so many boxes and booster boxes and ETB cases of all this stuff, and it's not doubling price. Oh my God, I had to take out a loan to do this. This is like dumb money. And there are so many people getting burned by this. And I do think it will make prices drop. But then eventually collectors will continue to buy things and things will go back up. I think there are so many people, especially in the Pokemon space, that don't understand anything about Pokemon outside of like Gen 1 and 2. You show them anything from Gen 5 and they're like, oh, this looks stupid. Oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, I think this looks dumb. Black Bolt and White Flare will go down, in my opinion, you're hearing it here, as some of the best sets we've ever gotten. We very rarely ever get two sets that work together. The last one I think was the Groudon and Kyogre Double Crisis one. I forget the name of it. But we very rarely get sets that do this. But not only do they go together, they have an illustration rare for every single Pokemon on the Pokedex. This is insanity. If they did, I feel like if they did this with 151, it's like they'd be swimming in money. But they did it with Gen 5. And I think Gen 5 is an amazing generation. Some of the best games, if not the best games of the franchise's history. But because the people who have spent all their money on this and the people who have most of the buying power are these old heads, are these Gen 1ers, they don't see the value in it. I believe the collectors, the fans of the franchises are the ones that are going to survive. And I want to talk about Palworld a bit. There's this Palworld thing going around where people are buying cases of Palworld and be like, there's an error on the top where they've misspelled something. And they're like, oh my God, this is the first edition. This means something. This is going to be worth so much in the future. I personally do not believe Palworld has taken the time to establish itself as anything other than a knockoff Pokemon. Yes, it did well. It's like a knockoff Pokemon with guns. And yeah, I played the game for a bit. It wasn't that fun to me. It felt like, I don't know, kind of like Genshin Impact. It felt like, I don't know how to describe it, but it felt like open world slop. I know that's not a good way to describe it, but it kind of felt like you're playing Breath of the Wild, watered down and bad. Like, it felt like I asked 10-year-old me to design a game from his imagination after I had played like the Shadow the Hedgehog game, you know, the one where he has a gun on the cover. That's what it felt like. It just never felt that engaging to me. But people are buying this up by cases and hoping that this becomes something. And I think this is just evidence of dumb money. Before, if someone did something like this, I don't think it would have gone viral, because it would have been like, oh, you know, this is just someone putting their money into something ridiculous. Like if I bought 1 million of like loo rolls, it's like, okay, you know, let this person do his own ridiculous thing. But because the TCG community is so interconnected now and everything that happens is so widespread, people have heard about this. And I just think stuff like this is like, it's almost like a booby trap. Like, it's almost like you're going into the future and scamming yourself by putting money into stuff like this. Yes, I might eat my words and Power World might be the biggest thing ever, but I truly do not believe it will be. And I think one of the strongest philosophies to follow is to put money into things you understand. That's why I only really buy Pokemon, One Piece, and Riftbound. Riftbound I understand really, really well, because I've been playing League of Legends. Yeah, I've been hard stuck gold and I peaked plat. But I understand League of Legends really, really well. I understand the characters, I understand the jungle camps, I understand what characters have good reputations and bad reputations, etc., etc. I get this because it was just innate to me. All my friends played League, so I understood it. Pokemon I grew up with. It makes sense for me to like it. One Piece is a weird one. One Piece I actually ended up liking because I wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But I could not for the life of me get my IRLs into it. The game was just too complex, too wordy. And if I'm being completely honest, you play a game, someone Ash Blossoms you on the first turn. How is that an enjoyable experience? I couldn't get my friends into it. So I was like, oh, okay, let's try One Piece. We got some starter decks and we played it and we were like, wait, this is actually kind of fun. And then the live action dropped and I started watching it. So when it comes to One Piece, I will put my hands up. I'm a bit of a LARPer. I only got into it through the live action. But even then, the gameplay was so enjoyable to me. And now that I've learned to love the characters, I'm like, oh my God, there is something here that has taken years and years to build. Pokemon has been around for what, 30 years? League is about to celebrate its 20th anniversary. I don't even know how long One Piece has been around for, but these franchises have been around for generations. Power World has not. Power World is relatively new. I don't think it has the staying power if we ever hit a tidal wave that makes things go down. Pokemon is already experiencing that as well, you know, like with Pitch Black, Perfect Order, and I forgot the other one. So I just think if this ever happens, all the stupid money is what's gonna suffer, and I don't think it'll make the bubble pop. I think it'll just retract things. I think it'll make things go back a bit without decimating things. And I do think the survivors of this are going to be the collectors, are going to be the people who really understood what they were collecting, who really understood the franchise. I have been buying, I'm going to actually show you what I've been buying, because I think it's something so cool. So this is one of my most recent purchases from Cedo Cards. He makes YouTube videos, shout out to him. This is a Project K Misfortune. I don't think this is something an investor would actually care about. But when you're a fan of League of Legends, and then you look at this is like the beta version. It even says sample on it. It has texture on the back that the actual cards don't. This is like a piece of history. And because I love League, I know, like, if you ever end up liking League, or you're just liking the IP, this is something that people are going to love. And that's because I've developed taste. And I do think that is one of the key things that separates the true collectors from people who are just trying to make a quick buck. This Lux, I saw some guy crying about on Twitter. This Lux has dropped in price. It's the promo from Spiritforge. The guy's like, oh my God, I bought it at the all-time high. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing buying this at the all-time high? This is a promo that's undervalued and we should buy it when it's cheap. You should be able to spot value when it's cheap. These Garons and this Lux spell, I bought these for £3 each. £3. These are Spiritforge Nexus Night promos. Those are not being printed anymore. I'm not going to say, oh, this is going to make me a millionaire, but I can tell this is going to be rare and desirable because I've developed taste. And League has been around long enough that it has this robust IP. I just don't think a lot of the new TCGs have that. I just think a lot of the new TCGs see it as easy money. And you know, they're not even wrong. If people are reselling Power World cases for ×2 what they paid, they're not even wrong. They're not even wrong to do that. I just don't think it's going to be the thing that survives if things ever go bad. I just feel like these are the people who will suffer the most if things go bad. You should only collect and put money into things you really understand. If someone has to explain to you why something's cool, by that time, it's like, yeah, you will never time the market perfectly and buy it at its all-time low. But by that time, the narrative is out there. The reason it's cool is out there. Everyone kind of knows it's out there. If I had like 1 million followers and I was like, I just bought this Project K card, I can almost guarantee you Project K cards would go up in value because the narrative is out there. I've explained to other people why it's cool now. And that's the thing. If someone has to explain to you why it's desirable, I think it's already too late. Because now there are more eyes on here. And then when there are more eyes on here, people are buying it and it's going to start going up. You want to buy it before there are eyes on there, or that the eyes that are on there are so finite that it's just other people, other collectors. When I was buying these Spirit Force promos, some of them sold out while they were still in my car. I probably should have nabbed them sooner. But then I was a bit annoyed. I was like, man, I could have had a few more Garam promos. But then I was like, this is actually a good sign. It means other people are on the same wavelength. Because if you see value that no one else sees, it's almost pointless. I could find a grail. I could be like, that Tryndamere promo, one of the first promos they're giving out. Imagine I bought like 20 of those and no one ever ends up talking about it ever again. That's my money tied up in that, and it's not going to go anywhere, and I'm not going to be able to grade those. I'm not going to be able to move those. Whereas if you see something in other people who are in the same level as you when it comes to taste, the same wavelength, and they're validating what you're doing, I think you'll be fine. But yeah, I went slightly off topic at the end, but I don't think we're in a TCG bubble. I think we are in the era of TCGslop. And whenever there is a downturn, the people that will suffer the most are the people who are uneducated, who bought something because an investor told them to buy it, not because they truly understood what they were putting their money towards. They bought it because they thought it would be a quick buck. And I'm just telling you, that's not how these things work. If you ever go locals, if you play the games that you guys collect, every now and then you'll see someone. I have a few at my locals. I think he's Italian. And he had this binder full of the metal cards from set 1 and 2. And these weren't the best of. These were the ones you could buy from the prize wall. And he had a bunch of these. And he had spent maybe like 10 grand. And he was telling me about these. And I was like, oh my God, you spent so much on this. But I never thought what he bought was bad because I knew he was right. I'm like, these are so finite. Like you've obviously put your money somewhere smart. And I'm not even disagreeing with you. I just wouldn't do it myself because I don't have that appetite for it. And he did that, and now that Riftbound started booming, he's living good. He's actually telling me he wished he held on to it a bit longer because he sold, I believe he sold the Timo for 4K. So he doubled his money, but now that Timo's going for like 5 or 6K, so he was like, I wish I held it for a bit longer. Either way, what I'm saying is collect what you like and understand, because that is what's going to survive if this bubble ever pops. All right, I'm out. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. And shout out to Cedar Cards. Thank you very, very much for this misfortune. Stunning card. I'm going to take good care of this. I might get it graded, but I don't think this is ever leaving my personal collection.